looking at my Twitch dashboard. It's like seeing me naked. Well, okay, not quite. Anyway, hello, this is Julie. I'm a couple seconds late. One of my computers is being really weird. Well, several of them are, but it's that time of year, I suppose. Um, Trying to get the laptop up so I can get the script so I have it handy and know what scenes I'm going to be working on today. Welcome, anyone. Oh, I gotta make sure I go back to my Twitch dashboard. Don't look. And pull the chat window out in case anybody shows up. Oh, hello, Quizzical Haddock. Is it like Captain Haddock or just the fish? Um, anyway, welcome. I have a chat person. Um, let's see what I'm going to be working on today. I'm still waiting for the laptop to come up. I have to admit, one of the reasons I was running a little late is I've been playing a stupid video game and it keeps kicking my ass. It's a video game called The Lobotomy Corporation, and I've been watching it on and off through its development phases as people play it on YouTube, but it changed a lot since the last playthrough. Ah, okay. A twisted Dune. What other kind of Dune reference could there be but a twisted one? But, oh, the sad part is whenever I try to come up with Dune references in my head, I come up with references to the National Lampoon Dune with the mauve bib and the giant pretzels on the desert planet. It's terrible. It's one of those things that sticks in your head and never lets you go. Come on, laptop, open up, you evil bastard. Problem is, I don't have Word on all the computers, so if I don't open up the, the one with Word, I can't open up the script. Come on. Oh, that was a long time ago. Maybe it was the Harvard Lampoon. It was just a little book they did. It wasn't a movie or anything. It was just a really, really silly book. Much like Board of the Rings, if you ever saw that book. That was. Oh, that was their version of the Lord of the Rings, needless to say. And let's see if I can get it up on the other laptop. I have far too many computers. Um, let's see if we can wake you up. Oh, here's the scene list at least. Okay. I believe we just did scene 19, which would be 17, 19. When we did scene 21. Okay, so 21. We've already done 23. I could do. No, I've done 27. Yeah, I didn't see the Barry Trotter one, but I can guess what that is. Yeah, oh, man. Well, let me see what other scenes I've got voices for. 34. Um, yeah, there's parody can be kind of fun, but it has to be done right, or else it turns into just ha ha. Look how many dirty jokes we can make out of characters' names. You know what I mean? Where's the restaurant? Huh. I've missed a scene on my scene list. How clever of me. Well, anyway, yeah, there's good parody and then there's just tragically bad. I have to admit, I don't have Cheese voice in here. Scene 34. What did I do? Um, this, yeah, things happen sometimes, and you make mistakes like I apparently did. 34, 34, 33. Okay. No. Darn. I'm having one of those days already. Let's get in here. In 33, I believe. Scene 34. Well, that's my fault for not marking it. But that's easily solved. Okay. Scene 34 then. Bring it over here. And as you can see, there's a lot more on Hyde's track than there is on mine. Oh, now where are you at? I mean, sorry, I'm responding to Quizzical Haddock saying that that we didn't get things like that over here, and I'm assuming it's... I don't know. I have a hard time keeping track of everybody's pseudonyms. I'm sure I know who you are, but I don't connect it up with that name. Ah, England. Because I got fans in England, I got fans in Australia, so over there could be over either direction. I mean, probably harder one direction than the other considering the time of night, but that is never one of those things I can keep in my head. But anyway, this scene, this might be a very big scene for Hyde. I think Hyde has a monologue in here, which is why he's got a much longer track than Chiyoko's at the moment. First thing I'm going to do is these two were a stereo track that I took apart. So, which is really simple in Audacity. All you have to do is click on split stereo to mono. But I do keep them together until I check to see if there's any good comments that I can put into the blooper reel. So usually those will be on the off track.
That one was just dripping.
Oh.
No one can see in, can they?
No. Oh.
Oh, it's a saucy that's what we were looking for. Because we had a bunch of people when we were recording this session.
That one was just dripping.
We have a tendency to get better bloopers.
I like the way that he did it on that slightly understated but so poignant.
I just figured I'd connect with like the inner teenager who's just like, what's going on? Oh.
You're still kind of in that mode. That back there, remembering. Wait a minute.
So you can hear a bunch of us talking in this track. Hopefully you
Oh.
can hear us.
Hey, Jun, begin the soundtrack.
I need to turn up the sound. I had it down because I was playing the stupid video game, which has an excessively loud soundtrack, and I need to. I finally found where the soundtrack, where you can turn it down. Now I'm making this piece back into a stereo track, so they don't get separated once I paste them into my blooper collection. Not everything actually makes it into the final blooper reel, but the more I put in here, the more choices I have when I put it together. And it's easier just to pull them out as you go along and put them in. And I can get rid of that. Usually it's if there's anything that shows as being significant in the off side.
I remember the goddamn project.
Yeah, it's like...
I probably have started trying to use it in my cloning projects.
I mean, this was the start of your genetic manipulation project.
Yeah.
But, feeling proud of that. Be like,
This is my
differentiation.
pioneer differentiating mold spores under various stimuli.
Chiyoko.
And my father...
My father shook my hand. It's like, woo!
Yep.
It's like getting your hand shook by the president that first time.
Yep.
And then afterwards you're like...
That can go too. What I really need to do at this point is just find the beginning of the track, the beginning of the second take. When we take it in a group like this, I always do 2 takes, and that way, and you'll hear that we have a tendency, all of us, to direct each other. So there's a lot of directing involved from all the other actors. In this, we had we had Hyde, which is Mike, Alice, which is Beverly, and Ken, which is Ray, and then me over off mic on the computer, making sure nobody blows the gain too much. Now, I've got to look at this bit right here. See, here it looks like he blew the gain a bit, but I'm thinking blowing the gain means going out the edges so that it gets cut off. But a lot of the time, it doesn't actually get cut off if you bring it down right. I'm going to pop mute. I'm going to use one of my favorite programs, Pop Mute, which I'm going to, this is reiterating, I'm sure, if for anybody who has not heard me say this before, what it does is I tell it anything that is higher than 3 from the top. I know these are like weird numbers, but it's the way I've kept it in my head, is the numbers count down from here. So -3 is 3 from the top. And anything that's that high or higher will be brought down by 1. And then I'll do it again. I use a repeat key. And you can see now that actually didn't blow the gain. It did go outside the borders, but it wasn't cut off. So it doesn't have a flat top on it anywhere, which is when it did get cut off, and then it's damaged sound. As long as you don't have the cut off, the flat top, the sound is not bad. It's still usable. And that's huge, especially when we have a tendency to get noisy in these tracks. I'm going to go ahead and do pop mute again till I bring all of the high points down out of the stratosphere there. It's a really super useful function. It's so much easier than trying to isolate manually and bring down anything that goes outside there, because then unless you're super careful and you get just the littlest piece of sound, you're changing the volume on everything around it as well. And when you do that, then you get weird volume fluctuations. If you just pull down the high ones, the really loud ones, you don't really hear it. And that makes it much more functional. Now, the chances are, beginning of the second time through the scene is right near the beginning here. But I need to open the script. Oh, I even have it open. What do you know? Let's see. Okay. This scene is absolutely pivotal for Hyde. I shouldn't even let people hear this in advance because it is such a fabulous scene. I mean, it's important for Chi too, because she's got very important. I mean, this is episode 1 of season 2, and therefore a lot of what's going on is reiterating a little bit of stuff to bring the audience back up to speed on who characters are. But in doing so, part of what I'm doing is, in episode 6, Chi and Hyde took a huge step in their relationship, and now they're sort of cementing it in this one car trip to a restaurant and back, as they talk and they really open up and talk about themselves. Because it's not that way. It's showing in a way to the audience that this isn't just, it isn't just a fling. It isn't just sex, because that's what it was in episode 6. And it's much more than that for both of them, really. And part of that is because, they're both weirdos in their own way. Chi has had the luck of having supportive friends, and Hyde doesn't. He's got lackeys and family and things, but they're not friends.
Sorry.
Oh, there we are, coughing.
And then I killed Ken.
And then I killed the dog.
Okay, Ken's having a coughing fit. I might just save that line from Hyde, though. into the into the blooper stack. I just cannot get used to the highlighted part being lighter. I'm used to it being darker in the older versions of Audacity. Audacity updated at some point between my previous version and this version, so this version keeps surprising me with little things.
Immediately gonna go, oh my god, I was molested!
Ah, yes.
And
And then we find out
so I'm just trying to get rid of some of these noises so I know that they're not important. Now where does the scene begin? It begins with, that is an odd way to put it.
really that's like, I didn't know why.
Yeah.
You know?
He was a kid. He didn't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I am pat, go away.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Ooh, look, that croupier is.
We were doing a lot of
Yes.
discussing in this scene because we
Ooh,
wanted to make
oh
sure
boy.
because it is a
Lancelot,
very
go away
important
now.
scene, and we wanted to
Need
work
to
it
look
out so that
unattached.
it's
Oh, look at my new accessory. Doesn't this leash look cute?
Yes.
Don't worry, he'll be gone before the interesting season happens.
Yes.
I mean, she mostly kept a relationship with Hyde.
we've been talking about a lot of the background
Okay.
for it so that
Let's get
so that Hyde was very informed on what
Yeah.
was fueling.
I
this
visited
scene.
her sometime.
Okay, that's part of the speech. It might actually.
atrocious, you know. In a way, the story is also it's admitting something, but you're also bragging to Chico,
Mhm.
even if it is nerd bragging.
I won this.
I know this is going to be one of the.
title.
I remember.
This is one of the stranger sequences that I have to do. That's just
Okay.
two people
Okay.
talking in here.
There were the other children.
Yes.
There.
This is going to be a tricky one because he does have a monologue, and we took it piece by piece to really work it, to really pull out any poignancy in it, and that's absolutely vital. But it does slow down the process of editing a lot. Most of the time when I was doing something like this, I'd record it and I'd be editing it up within a short enough time that my memory would be good enough to go, oh, I need to make sure I edit through this whole section. When nowadays I'm like, it's 5 years ago. I don't remember where we started.
The other children.
Well, you know what? I'm going to have to just start from the beginning, and this is a long, long part. I'll skip ahead anywhere I
Cut,
can.
paste, right. Destiny.
Okay. Destiny.
Oh no, I have no control.
I mean, the first part of this seems like it's going to be. Pardon my snorking. It's winter.
Crap, just
It's going to be parts of the opening part before he actually
All right.
goes into his personal monologue.
That is an odd way to put it.
Okay, that is his first line in the scene. I can keep that.
They were a partnership, not a romantic partnership. They worked well together, but I did not think that.
We'll hear Chiyoko's side of this later, I know.
Oh.
We need to keep the O. I want to make sure I don't cut out any pieces of either phrase by mistake when I blank out everything around them. So, and then his next line is...
You can try. Do you need a hug first?
He sounds so stilted on the hug line, which he should. Hyde's not a touchy-feely person, and he's really surprised earlier in this whole sequence of scenes when Chiyoko actually hugs him, and just to comfort him, and it just surprised him. It's not part of his lexicon of how to relate to people, if that makes sense.
I am honored. Please, go on.
And I mean, because we're starting to see really that Hyde has a lot of a very I hate to say a soft, chewy center, but that's kind of what it is. he's got his moments, and I'm just gonna get through all of these little bits up to where the monologue starts, and I'll keep these unless I just hate them, rather than go back through them again for a second time.
Grateful?
Grateful. The awe of understanding.
Ah.
And a lot of this is going to have to be volumed way up, so it's, this scene's going to take a little work to put together, and I'll run late if I have to just finish this full scene. And then this line should be Destiny.
Destiny?
I'm not happy with that sound, but I'll get it. Oh.
Of your personal choices, then.
Yes.
I remember.
And here's Hyde's big monologue.
Yes. Oh boy.
Go ahead and get the first verdict.
Let's see.
I remember.
And here's Hyde's big monologue.
Yes.
Okay, so Hyde's big monologue begins there. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to take this. These are the first lines of the scene where he's interacting with Chi more. I'm going to volume them up right out the bat and set them aside, basically. I may go back and replace them with the second take. There's a couple of them I wasn't particularly hyped on, but I'm going to delete that whole part and start again, because that's going to just clear out some of the chaff on the screen. So where does this scene actually begin?
Then you read it and you just.
You have to.
Onomatopoeia.
That's a good idea.
That sounds fun. I'm going to keep that in there. Sometimes it's fun to put together the blooper track as things, how they relate to each other. Different phrases that we spoke at different times. And having things like that's a good idea. Can be fun. Okay. So it doesn't seem to have started before here.
Yes.
Yes, please. Actually.
Genius.
That is an odd way to put it.
Oh, and here we go through the scene a second time. So he must have done this and then sat down to work on the monologue specifically. So let's see.
That is an odd way to put it. Oh.
And this is where Chiyoko is telling him, sort of making a kind of a dark admission to something she feels guilty about
You
in
can
her
try.
childhood and life.
Do you need a hug first?
And then it's awkward because my laptop is. Oh, jeez. Just fuck off, Dropbox. How do I get it to go? Oh, god damn it. Just fuck off. Sorry, Dropbox is great for some things, but boy does it annoy me.
I'm honored. Please, go on.
Give me a little bit more even.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is like, oh wow.
I'm honored. Please, go on.
Oh, that's a nice one. Oops. Oh, yeah, you have the same problem. Well, see, the problem is I have to use it because I use it. Dropbox, Quizzical Haddock was sympathizing with me. I have to use it because I use it with my editors for the audiobooks that I do. And I have other ways of sending also, but they don't have other ways of sending back to me.
Grateful?
And so it can be really annoying, but I'll tell you, this stupid thing, it'll start like updating files and stuff and slow down my computer if I don't turn it off all the time. And I just, I'll be like, why is my computer getting slow? Oh, right. Or it'll be sitting there going, I'm looking for a signal. I'm looking for a signal. I'm like, I'm working offline. There is no signal. Yeah, but I'm looking for a signal. You're working on battery and I'm wasting all your battery. You know, just bullshit. Okay, I'm going to take this whole section because it is essentially a repeat of this down here that I already saved. And save it again. And then I can compare the two later on when I get back to this point. So I've got essentially the same set of lines twice. Yeah, well, I have a service with A Drive, which I've actually been pretty pleased with once I figured out how to make it work, where I have like 100 gigs of space for a reasonable amount of price, and because I'm constantly uploading WAV files to send to my editors, and WAV files take up hella space, you know, as far as that goes, and I don't want to fill up the Dropbox or pay for more. But once it's up in the A Drive, I can leave it there for a while to make sure that it gets done and then just delete it when it's all completed. I don't mind doing that. I don't like anything that's automatically a cloud or automatically updating. I don't like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Destiny.
Now, oh, whoops. How did I not get to... Wait a minute. Oh, we were just redoing these last couple of lines, so...
Destiny.
Oh no, I have no control.
Oh, right. You have a destiny.
From more being a little more kind of destiny.
Mm-hmm. Destiny? No, that's a question again. Destiny.
Okay, we've got several takes on Destiny. Chiyoko was talking about her life, and he says Destiny, and she's like, no, I have a destiny. I know that. There's nothing I can do about that. But, and he's like, oh, right, yeah, duh. So I'm going to put these over here. Again, I might want to use some other variation on the phrase of that. See what sounds best.
Yes.
Once I get into her lines as well. Now.
I remember.
Okay. This is where the monologue begins. And the first line is actually really telling. That's one reason I shouldn't let anybody hear it, but I'm going to. Okay, let me look at... I want to volume this up right now, though, because I know it's kind of quiet coming in here. Let's go at least that. Alright, now, I'm hoping you can hear at that and some of this.
I remember the first time my father ever touched me.
And that is the first line of his monologue. It's like, okay, I'm going to volume that up a bit again.
I remember the first time my father ever touched me. As a child, I was only ever touched by servants. Held, fed, bathed, dressed. Eventually, there were the other children, when I was old enough to play. But never father. I didn't know why. I could tell there was some sort of shame attached to my mother's departure. But it had... But it happened shortly after I was born. But it happened shortly after I was born, and was something no one would ever talk about. I visited her sometimes during the summer. Once I was old enough to be a cute pet, and not a mewling burden.
I'm not sure if there's just a pause there.
Ice blonde hair and eyes like diamonds. I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project. Genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli. God, I was a nerd.
Of course you were a nerd.
But Now you're a multi-billionaire nerd.
Yeah.
With that jacket.
Yeah, 12 years old doing this.
I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli, and my father shook my hand. That was when I started to believe that being a success would make him love me.
And I'm going to bring this up some. But you can see this is very telling about this character, you know. It starts out sounding real dicey, and then suddenly you're like, oh, it's not that kind of touching. It's a different...
I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli, and my father shook my hand. That was when I started to believe that being a success would make him love me. I have since discovered just how deluded I was.
Okay. And that. Where's my cursor? Come on. Deluded I was. And that is the bulk of the monologue. We've got a little bit more interaction after that.
Oh, no,
He was
no,
raised
no,
with
no.
ice hands.
Yep,
Rubber gloves. No.
the big ones.
The purple ones. They look strangely like the ones Johnny Depp wore as Willy Wonka.
But yeah, I mean, let's just take it a piece at a time.
Sure. I remember...
Okay, so what we then did is went back through a piece at a time and worked each line. I'm going to take, first off, this first take of it from here to the beginning. And there was one repeat here.
I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli. I had just won an all...
I'm going to save the second variation on that. And I'm going to take this whole part of this version of the speech, duplicate it so I've got it down here, and then take as we work through it. Because this is one, I want this to be the best it can be. And, you know, different actors you work with to get different things out of them. I mean, some people can do, like me, I'm awesome. I'm also my own director, so I know what I want to get out of me, and I can usually do it. But, you know, different times you work through over and over again to get things into different shape, how you want them to be. I want to make sure this is not still soloed, however, so that it doesn't play at the same time. Now, pardon me. Oh, I like seeing everything on the screen. It's just a habit of mine. Even if they're all shrunk up, I like having them on the screen rather than off the bottom of it. It just drives me crazy. Anyway, whoops. So now it looks like we're going to have several takes on
Okay.
of this line.
I remember the first time my father ever touched me. I remember the first time my father ever touched me.
Kind of like that.
Touched a little bit more.
Okay. I remember the first time my father ever touched me.
Oh, that gave me chills almost. Yeah, we can keep that one. And what do we have? sometimes this is because this is the part of editing that is also directing, where you're really getting a chance to pull the best parts out of a seriously dramatic moment.
Oh, Lord!
Daddy's a pedophile.
Yep. And Chioko's like, I mean,
Oh, this is gonna be bad.
yeah, but I'm here.
Yep.
As
Yeah.
a child, I was only ever,
Yeah. As a child.
And then, yeah, because there is. Did I screw up? Just a second. I did. At some point, I pulled out more from the bottom than from the top, so they're not matching anymore. Darn it. Well, there's a way to handle that, which is to do this, match them up at that end, and then cut that much. I'm tricky that way. That should match them back up. Let's see. I should have them both soloed, though, to play. So,
Oh, Lord!
Daddy's a pedophile.
yep, they match
Oh,
up
this
again.
is gonna be bad.
So the next line comes about here. As I said, if you work enough with this, you start, as I've said before, if you work enough with this, you start seeing where things are and being almost able to read some of the waveforms. It gets weird sometimes.
As a child, as a child, I was only ever touched by servants, held, fed, bathed, dressed.
Good. And the second one for safety.
As a child, I was only ever touched by servants, held, fed, bathed, dressed.
No, don't like that one. I'll take the first one. I may still go with the one from the first run through as well. We did the first run through just to, get everything pacing, to let us all hear it, and then we start picking it apart and pushing him into doing more, hitting the dramatic
other
points.
Children.
Eventually, there were the other children, but
But they were all just nerds.
Boris probably was merciless with wedgies and noogies.
Fair just wanted tea parties.
It's the wedgie whipping boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hyde had a shitty childhood, and
Yes.
we would never find out.
Something to
He'd
stay
never
around.
tell
at least
anybody
long.
except
Hair.
she, of course.
Really, it was sabotage.
You're not a sibling, you're competition.
Balls. I can just see that Hyde going, someone loves me. Fuck.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yes, someone loves you enough to tell you.
It's just this very matter-of-fact speech about this
Man
very
up.
Care
shitty
yourself.
childhood.
Yep.
But we had a lot of discussion about it because we really wanted to
That's why he
get
likes
it.
her, is
Yeah.
because, that's an important
That
thing.
one
feeling in
moment.
there.
Don't make me ever do it
Put up
again.
your dukes.
See, you owe me a favor. Oh, baby Ken. Oh, baby Ken. Or baby Ken. Baby Hyde.
Murph.
Hyde family.
Baby Ken,
Yes, we watched you.
Ken had the idyllic.
Man
take
up.
care of you.
Yeah, by comparison, Ken's childhood was idyllic,
Yes, we watched you.
which we actually get to see some parts of Ken's childhood in this episode as well.
Except his mother is gone, and we never find out where his mother went. His real mother.
Ken's mother.
Oh God. Oh no. What if she became a Hyde? Oh God.
Oh God.
We just have that moment of. Does that?
Can I talk allowance?
No.
Well, Pierce is
We're just Ken. Part of Ken's background, of course, is that actually, the opening of episode 1 is going to be Ken at 12 and Chi at 6, meeting for the first time at the wedding of Chiyoko's aunt to Ken's father, and that's gonna open
Hyde,
season
you're
2.
probably an 8th, like Cherokee.
So he was a Cherokee case?
Oh,
that's
Lordy.
bad.
That's a bad pun.
Okay.
Like I said, we get very
Yes.
goofy when we're in a group.
Eventually, there were the other.
Okay, back to the actual script.
Eventually, there were the other children when I was old enough to play, but never father.
I like that little sound of revulsion in there. The other children.
Eventually, there were the other children. Eventually, there were the other children when I was old enough to play, but never father.
Okay. There, I actually really like this first.
Eventually,
Let's see.
eventually there were the.
Whoops. That's what happens when you take it out of one track. And
Eventually, there were the other children. When I was old.
Come on.
When I was old enough to play.
I did it again.
When I was old enough to play, but never father.
Okay, I'm gonna hold for a second. I'm gonna paste over into the bloopers. Blah 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 blah. Hey, don't do that, you piece of poo. Some days the computer just doesn't like you. Always want to make sure you save when you're pasting stuff around, just so that it doesn't, like if you have a crash or something, you don't lose things. Audacity doesn't crash much anymore, but it used to crash fairly relatively.
He was a
regularly.
kid. He didn't know why. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
let's take that chunk all the way down to no one would ever talk about.
I didn't know why. I could tell there was some sort of shame attached to my mother's departure, but it had happened shortly after I was born and was something no one would ever talk about. I didn't know why. I could tell there was some sort of shame attached to my mother's departure, but it had happened shortly after I was born and was something no one would ever talk about.
I'll take the second one. What actually happened was that it was very practical. Actually, it had nothing to do with quality. It had to do with the fact that Hyde showed up with the genetic disorder that passed down in their family, and therefore his mother obviously had the recessive as well. So the father divorced her immediately rather than breeding any more defective children. Hyde's the only one who picked it up in this generation out of like 27 kids, and which is so much fun. And that's why he's basically an only child
Yeah.
More than
in a huge family.
But he at least had a relationship with his mother.
Or
Even
had
if
the
it
potential
was,
of one.
yeah.
occasional summers. And,
Yeah.
You know, it's like, father was like the president of the United States.
Yeah, the current president of the United States. Sorry, no politics, Julie. No politics. No vomiting. No vomiting.
She was the first lady of the evening.
I mean, his mother didn't really do anything wrong that she could have controlled. She has no control over the genetics involved. But at the same time, his father was like, nope, no more defective children.
Yes.
And even though technically...
Ooh, the pool boy. Lancelot, go away now.
I'm sorry, that one caught me. Bloopers. I'll put that in here with his. But there's nothing to be done about
Need to
it.
look unattached.
That's one reason.
Yes.
One
Yes.
reason, Hyde has this.
Oh, look, I dropped an infant. Well, at least I have one more string into
Take
Arthur's.
it away and bring me another lover.
Oh my God, that was a quote from Absolutely Fabulous. Well,
Okay.
Sorry,
I
that
was.
the story of Patsy.
back to the actual script, guys. Come on.
I visited her sometimes during the summer. Once I was old enough to be a cute pet and not a mewling burden. Something no one...
Wait, did I miss the line as mother?
Okay.
All right. So let's get the. I visited her sometimes during.
And was something no one would ever talk about.
Oh, right. That's where we ended up. And then we have a.
I visited her sometimes during the summer. Once I was old enough to be a cute pet and not a mewling burden. I visited her sometimes during the summer. Once I was old enough to be a cute pet and not a mewling burden.
Tough choice. I think I'm gonna go this way. Yeah, the AbFab reference. Take it away and bring me another lover. That was Patsy's story about her mom and also her older sister's, her other sister's story about their mother. That was me
A
saying
cute
that.
pet and not a mewling burden.
She didn't want a baby around. She wanted a charming little toddler who could, make her look so magical.
Ice blonde hair and eyes like diamonds.
Did I just do that? Yes, I did. Nice blonde hair and eyes like diamonds. That's...
And you might notice that she is exactly opposite of Chiyoko.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying, you might notice that his mother is exactly the opposite of Chiyoko. Ice
I
blonde
needed the
hair.
anti-mommy.
Your mom is so tolerant.
Though really, appearance is less what they're falling for than personality.
Huh?
That
Ooh.
doesn't sound inviting.
Apparently it did to Arthur.
Not like
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah. Okay.
Not like
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah. Okay. Ice blonde hair and eyes like diamonds.
Yeah, that's his description of his mom.
Ice.
It's like, yeah, that's nice. You don't have any like that, moms are friendly or cuddly or huggy or something. No, she's just
Okay.
His eyes like diamond.
Ice blonde hair and eyes like diamonds. Ice blonde hair and eyes like diamonds.
I think I like the first one first. I'm more.
Right, I was talking about my father.
Right. Like suddenly you got Mom.
I was 12. I had... I was 12.
Let me just make sure. Right. Yeah, I'm going to leave that in because he is getting back on track to. He was talking about his father and.
I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli. And my father shook my hand.
Be even more proud. I mean, that's the first moment. The genetics. You remember the title.
I remember
of
the
that
goddamn
video.
project.
Yeah, it's like.
I probably have started
Very
trying to use it
sort
in
of-
my cloning
Yeah,
projects.
I mean, this was the start of your genetic manipulation project.
Yeah.
But feeling proud of that, be like,
This is
genetic
my
differentiation.
Pioneer differentiating mold spores under various.
The-
Pioneer differentiating mold spores under various stimuli.
Chiyoko.
And my father.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep that bit for the blooper reel. Though Chiyoko would be very, very supportive of him no matter what. She's like, I don't have to understand it to know that you're excited.
Mother
Yeah.
shook my hand. It's like, woo!
Yup.
It's like getting your hand shook by the president that first time.
Yup.
And then afterwards you're like, what, that's all I get?
Oh, uh-oh.
It's currently sitting at full and says 75% remain. Whoa, it's 75% remaining. But still, yeah, that's going to be.
I figure we just trade.
Ooh, and
So it needs
simply
the air to
keeping
actually
it
cool
above
it.
to allow.
Flow.
I have no idea what we were talking about. There's some.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I won this bubble
Hey.
bubble.
Well,
Ouch.
I don't know what that is,
I don't know
but
what
it
is,
sounds
but
impressive.
it's very impressive. Because she cares, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, okay.
I was 12.
Just a second. Here we go. For the second take on that. Finally.
I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli. And my father shook my hand.
Yeah, one more time, and let's just, like, be a little bit more pleased with yourself in the early part.
Okay.
We do a lot of convincing, as I said.
And the crowd went wild, as wild as they do.
Yay.
Yeah.
And my father.
And there was much rejoicing. Stop it.
Actually, that's not
And
so
that's
great.
a Monty
But,
Python
oh well.
joke.
And that was the only time it was ever exciting.
Yep.
Okay, come on.
Okay.
Let's do it again.
I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project,
You can see what I mean about
genetic
learning to
differentiation
read
in
this.
mold
You can
spores
see
under
that this
various
is the
stimuli.
same thing again.
And my father shook my hand.
That I like.
That was beautiful. One more like that.
Okay.
I'm gonna mark that one because I like
Okay.
that. He shook my hand bit.
I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli. And my father shook my hand.
I don't think I need to keep that one. That one wasn't quite as good. I've still got to compare like 4 different versions, but
Yes.
okay.
Yes. So just do that whole rest of that bit, or just the
Let's just do that would to make him love me.
That was when I started to believe that being a success would make him love me.
Don't go quite so much on success.
That was when I started to believe that being a success would make him love me.
Occasionally he has got a tendency to go very high, and I try to cut that out. Because Hyde is a very low voice. It takes work for him, but he does a really good job. It's just sometimes it's easy to fall into that.
I have since discovered just how deluded I was. I've since discovered just how deluded I was.
Clever of me.
I've since discovered just how deluded I was.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite speeches.
Huh?
Yeah, what?
I think the rest of
That one was just dripping.
Oh, there was something in there, right?
Oh.
Right, because there are a couple more ones.
Huh?
Yeah, what?
What? No.
Oh. Right. Okay, so that is the last bit of the scene. And I've got to compare some of these versions, but at least I've narrowed it all down now. And then this. There might be another take on that last bit.
Chicken brown cow. Chicken brown cow.
Move a little.
What?
Simple human contact. No one can see in, can they?
No. Oh. No. Oh.
I'm going to keep that first one. Okay. Oh, finally got through the whole stupid thing. Got 20 minutes cut down to 2.5 or so. Okay, now I can get rid of this extra track because there's nothing coming in from there. Whew. but there is going to be a lot of comparison shopping here. Now, the easiest thing to do, well, it's not really cut down, it's cut into pieces, but I've got 2 different tracks here of Hyde stuff, and I just blew whatever my marking was, because I'm so clever. So, oh, I don't want them that big. I just used the fit-in screen, and that was a terrible idea. Okay. I like trying to keep them all roughly the same size, so I actually have a visual reference for volume. But I also like making sure that they don't have that middle line really thick, so I can see where there's actual sound in the horizontal line through the whole track. So hello. Oh, right. Okay. The scene begins with Chiyoko, I believe. Right.
My parents were very fond of me.
Now this is going to be interesting, drawing from several tracks by choice, because we've got a couple different versions of each of his line.
That is an odd way to put it.
Or,
That is an odd way to put it.
I like that one better. Right now I'm just going to put all the lines together, and then I will get the actual timing right after that. And add this poo-poo head.
No, it is merely a fact. They were a partnership, not a romantic match.
You know what? I'm going to take this and move it up, so that I can just put everything onto the upper track as I use it, so I'm not going to be confused. Hopefully. Let's mute this for now. Okay.
No, it is merely a fact. They were...
No, I've actually recorded all of Chiyoko's dialogue. I just did it separately from when I was recording the group. It's just easier to have somebody on the computer watching for the watching to see if we blow the gain or anything and keep track of everything.
No, it is merely a fact. They were a partnership, not a romantic match. They worked together well, but I do not think that affection was any part of it.
Oh.
I've got that O, and then I've got this O.
Oh.
I think I like this one better. I mean, this is also very important to her about this sharing this about what she's concerned about her parents, because she's about to admit something that she feels very guilty for, even though it's not something that is
May I
necessary.
say something that might make you think badly of me?
You can try. Do you need a hug first?
That might...
You can try. Do you need a hug first?
I like that one better. Stop. You can try to make me think badly of you, in other words, but it's not going to happen. Okay. And let's see. Admittedly, I did sit down and do all the recording for Chiyoko years after everybody else. That's one of the tricky parts of doing, mostly just because there was no time. I mean, I stopped doing the show entirely shortly afterwards, after we recorded all these, and then I'm coming back to it. That's why our group recordings were done long ago. Ouch. And I'm just making the time now to work on them because, frankly, winter can be really dull, and I needed something to cheer me up.
You can try. Do you need a hug first?
That might help. This is something I cannot say to anyone else, even Ken. But I think...
I'm gonna mute this for now. Oh, no, not mute this for now, just so I can get through her line.
This is something I cannot say to anyone else, even Ken. But I think you may be the one person who will understand.
Okay. And I need to make some space here. Now, this is another important line that we heard a little earlier from Hyde.
I am honored. Please, go on. I'm honored. Please, go on.
Tough choice.
I'm honored. Please, go on. I am honored. Please, go on.
I know what I want. I want the first part of this one and the second part of that one. And I need a little space before it. So that it follows. Okay. Oh. This way.
You may be the one person who will understand.
I'm honored. Please, go on.
Sometimes, just for the briefest moments, I find myself grateful that I was orphaned. And then the monstrous guilt sets in.
And it sounds, it is this idea that she feels like she's really doing a disservice to her parents by being glad they're dead. I mean, think about it. And the reason why makes perfect sense, but is also a terribly ungrateful thing to think about. I'm going to move those out so that I can paste in here with impunity. Move that out a bit. And actually move that one up. And then
Grateful that I was orphaned. And then the monstrous guilt sets in.
monstrous grateful. Let's see what we have.
Grateful? Grateful?
Definitely the first one. Stupid machine.
Grateful?
That event allowed...
Oops. Darn it. The wrong one.
That event allowed me to make my own choices. You see, my parents were a maid match. Mother's family had sight, and father's had, well, this.
And the next sound is...
Ah. Ah.
This one.
this.
Ah.
Uh-huh. It is not that I would ever... It is not that I would ever wish my parents dead. Merely that I am so happy to have control of my...
Okay, this is where we have destiny. Ah. I know at this point it's just like, well, this
Destiny?
is thrilling. But it's
Destiny?
no.
Destiny. Destiny. Destiny?
I think this is the closest one. One second and I'll play this whole thing. So far, at least. Okay. No, stupid thing. Keep forgetting the home key's on a different key than it is on my laptops. And I keep hitting insert instead. Okay, so this part. Oops. This part so far. I'll just play this and we'll see how it's coming out.
My parents were very fond of me.
That is an odd way to put it.
Your density had popped. My density had popped me to you. Huh? Did you mean destiny or is it a joke? Sorry, but comments.
My
Hold on.
parents were very fond of me.
That is an odd way to put it.
No, it is merely a fact. They were a partnership, not a romantic match. They worked together well, but I do not think that affection was any part of it.
Oh.
May I say something that might make you think badly of me?
You can try. Do you need a hug first?
That might help. This is something I cannot say to anyone else, even Ken. But I think you may be the one person who will understand.
I'm honored. Please, go on.
Sometimes, just for the briefest moments, I find myself grateful that I was orphaned. And then the monstrous guilt sets in.
Grateful?
That event allowed me to make my own choices. You see, my parents were a maid match. Mother's family had sight, and father's had, well, this.
Ah.
Uh-huh. It is not that I would ever wish my parents dead, merely that I am so happy to have control of my...
Destiny.
Oh no, I have no control over...
Of your personal choices, then.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's still some timing issues to work on in here, and I'm going to obviously get some more volume shifting to even everything out, but at least this part is roughly set now. And, I mean, it's going to be a fairly long scene, considering every other scene has been about a minute long, and this is already a minute and a half. But, you know, and then now we go right into Hyde's admission. And it's, you know, whether he feels like telling her something, like he owes her something, or whether he feels like, you know, this is a moment that he can open up to her, or even just to put her at ease by showing that his childhood had its issues too. You know, it's whatever it is. This is a big sharing moment for the both of them. So this is where I have to really decide on which versions I want to use. let me just listen through his for now, through the latest version of this one. Oh, my chair's very squeaky.
I remember the first time my father ever touched me.
I really like that one, no matter what. Stop it.
As a child, I was only ever touched by servants, held, fed, bathed, dressed. As a child, I was only ever touched by servants. As a child, held, I was only fed, bathed, dressed. Eventually, there were the other children.
Let's see. I'm gonna make this bigger so I can copy things out.
Eventually, there were the other children. When I was old enough to play,
Definitely hide.
but never father. I didn't know why. I could tell there was some sort of shame attached to my mother's departure, but it had happened shortly after I was born, and was something no one would ever talk about.
Okay, let's see what we got down here.
Eventually, there were the other children, when I was old enough to play, but never father. I didn't know why. I could tell there was some sort of shame attached to my mother's departure, but it happened shortly after I was born, and was something no one would ever talk about.
I might use that one, but let's see.
But it had happened shortly after I was born, and was something no one would ever talk about. I could tell there was some sort of shame attached to my mother's but it happened. I could tell there was some sort of
I think I like that best. I'll cut out mouth noises and stuff last as I do a final time through. But I do need to volume up this here a lot. You don't want it to sound like it's jumping, so you have to kind of volume up this like half as much just to get it.
Eventually, there were the other children, when I was old enough to play, but never father. I didn't know why. I could tell there was some sort of shame attached to my mother's departure, but it had happened shortly after I was born, and was something no one would ever talk about.
Okay, good. I'll bring that up some. And move this over to keep up with the other track.
I visited her sometimes during the summer. Once I was old enough to be a cute pet, and not a mewling burden.
I'll probably use that one, but I always want to listen to the other one just in
I
case.
visited her sometimes during the summer. Once I was old enough to be a cute pet, and not a mewling burden.
Yeah, the first one works for me.
Ice blonde hair and eyes like diamonds. Ice blonde hair and eyes like diamonds.
And I like the first one again.
I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli. And my father shook my hand. I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli. And my father shook my hand.
I like this shook my hand better, but so far I like this preamble better.
I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli, and my father shook my hand.
Okay, I like this best for that, and I like this best. I know, it's like, wait a minute, how many different pieces is this going to be made from? Well, you'd be surprised how well a lot of it actually goes together. So if I blank that out so I don't forget, and blank this out, and we listen to this one, how it...
I was 12. I had just won an all-prefecture award for my science project, genetic differentiation in mold spores under various stimuli. And my father shook my hand.
I like that one. That's gonna be that's really good. So I am actually gonna not even listen to that one again. And we'll get on to the next part.
That was when I started to believe that being a success would make him love me. I have since discovered just how deluded I was. That was when I started to believe that being a success would make him love me. I have since discovered just how deluded I was.
I think I'm just gonna use this version. I think that's good. Right from here on out. And then there's just that little bit where he's interacting with Chiyoko, so... Okay, this wasn't anything I was saying.
I remember the first...
Okay, so then I've just got to place Chiyoko's few lines in here.
I remember...
No, bigger. I have to be very warmed up to do her voice because I have to take it on high, just like Hyde has to go low. But we really, it's funny how I ended up casting everybody. It was really unusual. But it works so well that I don't care.
But never father. I didn't know why.
Close some of this up a little bit.
After I was something no one would ever talk about. I visited her sometimes during the summer. Once I was old enough to be a cute pet and not a mewling bird.
Now there is actually a line where of his mother's voice here that goes in that is just like an echo of something she said, and that's one of the first times we hear about her. We hear her voice, and she shows up in the second episode, actually, on the doorstep, trying to bribe Chiyoko into getting pregnant, of all things. And it's like, okay. Which she, of course, is like, no. And it's not even because of Hyde's issues. It's because she doesn't want to pass her curse on to anybody. But, and the funny thing is, of course, that she's only just told Hyde about her curse. And he hasn't told her yet about his curse, or what he thinks of as his curse, which is the genetic issue that makes him not want to have kids either. I mean, so they've both got reasons for it.
Move a little.
What?
Simple human contact.
No.
No one can see in, can they?
No. Oh.
They're in the car. So, I think I'll deal with the timing issues on this and putting everything else in tomorrow since I've run really long. It is a really long scene. I mean, look at this. As I said, most of the scenes have been running about a minute, and this one, because they've each got their minute monologue, or more or less monologue, is 3.5, and it'll probably be a little shorter once I tighten everything up. But yeah, it's a monumental moment. It's close to the end of the episode. In this episode, I know it's been, if you've been following, if anybody's been following, much of it has been conversations between, as part of that is because I've been using the recordings I already have, which are mostly simple scenes, conversations. There is action in the episode. It's all happening in a flashback. And I haven't started on any of the flashback parts yet. The flashback sequences are intersected through all these sequences that are happening now. All of the now sequences are mostly just in reestablishing the characters, reestablishing the relationships, and making sure everybody understands, where we are in the story. And then, oh, cool. Yeah, no, it's neat that you could be here. Oh, you saw the Dead State one. I need to figure out how to change the title on that when I do play a game, because if I could just figure out how to survive in lobotomy, I might actually stream that at some point, because it's a really interesting game, but so far it's just killing me at like level 3. I'm going, I must be missing something. There's got to be a way not to die all the time. But yeah, no, it's really nice having you here. I love having people, who I can at least get a couple of comments from or interact with. It's really interesting, and I love answering questions. Oh, but just to finish off what I was saying, the flashback sequence is to Chiyoko, the wedding where Chiyoko and Ken first met. And so we get to see both of their parents in the flashback, and then a monster attacks that night, totally at random, and Chiyoko's parents actually fight it off. And it's really funny with Ken going, there's no such thing as monsters, and she's like, of course there is, I'll get my parents. And he's like, no, really, it's not, there's not going to be a monster. She's like, my parents would be more mad at being eaten by a monster than being woken up in the middle of the night. Because she totally knows it's true. And so yeah, I'm gonna probably tomorrow night I will do a little bit more tuning up on this and then start on the next part. I'm still collecting up some of the voices I'm missing for the flashbacks, which is why I've been focusing on the parts that I have all the voices for. And so there's been a lot of it's a lot of piecemeal stuff, but a lot of times that's the way episodes go together no matter what, because some days all you really have the energy for is to put together a conversation because they're easy, and some days you're putting together the big fight sequences or something, and they're way more difficult. You'd be surprised how hard it is to get people to make fight noises. People are so self-conscious when they get on the mic. You're like, okay, I need some noises for a fight. Okay, what does that mean? And you're like, you gotta go, ugh, and ah, and ah! And people get really weird about it. Anyway, I think I'm gonna sign off here, but thank you, Quizzical Haddock, for being around. It's been awesome. And thanks to anybody listening on the in reruns, or when I'm not live in recorded. There's a word, I swear there's a word, and on YouTube as well. So thank you all, and good night. I would say peace out, but that sounds really silly coming from me.